Hi, my name is Jordan. I'm here at the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art in Bentonville, Arkansas. This museum houses some very familiar pieces of American art. However, what most people don't know is that some of Crystal Bridges' most noteworthy pieces are not found within its walls. Along the 4 miles of trails surrounding the museum, artwork is nestled with the local flora. Some of these pieces are whimsical, some abstract, and some somber. The piece that I'd like to bring attention to today is one of the more sobering installations, entitled A Place Where They Cried by Pat Musick.
Pat Musick obtained her Master's of Art from Cornell University in 1973 and has been creating art for over 40 years. One previous piece of music bears mention because it could be said that A Place Where They Cried is an extension of this previous work. In 2002, Pat Musick and her husband set out to create a temporary installation entitled Yokes on the Trail of Tears. This art piece was developed in order to commemorate the hardships that the Indians faced on the Trail of Tears. The 5 yokes were created using wood, natural stones, and steel. They weren't created to stand still, however. Musick had the installation moved to 23 locations in Arkansas following the binge route on the Trail of Tears. A Place Where They Cried is a continuation of the theme of this previous work. In 2010, Musick decided to make a more permanent installation which honors the thousands who died during the forced migration of the Native Americans. Against a backdrop of dense trees, 35 monoliths rise up from the bare ground. The sandstones are left to their original shapes. They are roughly rectangular, although many of the stones have jagged edges. The stone surfaces are rough, letting the true nature of the stone shine through. The sandstone has variations in color that go from burnt red to greenish browns. These color variations, along with the moss on some surfaces, create an interesting swirl of color. The composition appears unstable and random and is continually changing depending on the angle it is viewed from. The monoliths form a processional that creates a line that draws the eye to a small stream, and then the stones resurface on the other side. The stones come in all shapes and sizes, some as tall as 5 feet, others as small as 2 to 3 feet. Amongst all the monoliths, the artist has provided a bench so that the viewer may sit and reflect on the meaning of the work. Every piece of the work is symbolic, and Musick uses these monoliths as a biography to represent the people who suffered on the Trail of Tears, both young and old. The tall 5-foot stones represent the men, the 4-footers the women, and the 2 to 3-footers the children. Her use of native stone is also symbolic of the relationship the Native Americans had with the land. The shapes of the stones are left untouched. Many of the stones have humps as if they're carrying a heavy burden. The stones are also jagged and worn as if they've been on a long journey. They provide a bleak picture as they continue their march across the stream. The stream itself is part of the symbolism in Musick's work. Musick wanted a site for her art that contained a stream or other form of water because many of the deaths that occurred on the Trail of Tears happened when the Native Americans were forced to cross bodies of water. This artwork is a great example of environmental art. The monoliths are native sandstone, but they are not created to be looked at on their own. The woods and the stream that surround them are part of the work, and without them the artwork would be incomplete. In previous works, Musick was influenced heavily by environmental artists such as Andy Goldsworthy and Christo. Both were known for creating temporary installations. Musick followed a similar train of thought when she created the yokes on the Trail of Tears. She knew as she created them that she would temporarily install them and then switch locations after a time. Although A Place Where They Cried was created to be a permanent installation, influences from other environmental artists can still be seen. Goldsworthy used nature as a primary medium. Like him, Musick lets nature do all the talking. She selected native stones, she made sure to select a location that was significant to what she was trying to convey, and she placed the stones so as to be minimally invasive. The artwork is not meant to stand out in contrast to nature, but rather complement it as it tells its story. I chose to bring this artwork to attention because it is often overlooked when people visit the museum, likely because it's one of the farther flung outdoor installations. However, it is also to me one of the most thought-provoking pieces because it exposes a dark chapter in American history. One of the primary objectives of art should be to invoke emotions and reactions in its viewers. A Place Where They Cry does just that. One feels a sense of shame, almost guilt at what was done to the Native Americans. One can almost feel the overwhelming sorrow that they must have experienced, and at the same time one feels tremendous admiration for the nobility and endurance they displayed. I encourage anyone who visits Crystal Bridges to spend a moment on the bench provided, to reflect upon the horror and sorrow wrought by the Trail of Tears.